5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's an honor to be able to testify today in front of the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission about the status and plight of Copts in Egypt. I'm a Coptic classic liberal political activist. I'm also a writer and researcher in Egypt. I just came to the U.S. Last month. I've been involved in the political process for over a decade, and I've addressed the protesters in Tahrir Square, and also I've been involved in mass bureau protests. To be able to discuss the plight of Copts and why they are persecuted in Egypt, I would have to ask the question: who are the current rulers of Egypt? Who are the Supreme Council of Armed Forces? What is their ideology? And are they secular autocrats, like they like to give the impression to Western governments, or is it something else? What I claim here, and these are all historic facts, that the current military oligarchy originates from the Muslim Brotherhood organization. In 1952, the free officers perpetrated a coup d'etat against the Egyptian monarch. The free officers were the branch of the military wing of the Muslim Brotherhood organization. They only split after the death and the assassination of Hassan al-Banna, the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood, in 1949. Before that, they were members of the Muslim Brotherhood, including the first president of Egypt, the actual first president of Egypt, Gamal Abdel Nasser. He was a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, and in 1444 he joined and swore allegiance to Hassan al-Banna on a gun and Quran. This is the founding father. This is according to Khalid Muhyiddin, a fellow free officer and also previously a member of parliament in Egypt. This is according to his own biography. These are the founding fathers. Almost 90 people that perpetrated the 1952 coup d'etat were members of the Muslim Brotherhood. This is the reality of the basis of the current ideological foundation of the Egyptian army and the regime and the oligarchy that has had control for over 6 decades, 60 years of this. This is what we are having, and it was inevitable that Sharia law becomes part of the constitution. In 1971, President Sadat introduced Sharia law to the constitution, and now I think it qualifies to say that Egypt is a constitutional theocracy and it's not a modern state. The consequences were that Copts are no longer, according to Sharia law, identified or defined as citizen. I have an Egyptian passport, but I'm not a citizen. The concept of citizenship is a Western concept that does not apply to us in Egypt. I'm a woman and I'm Copt. I'm a 4th-class citizen in Egypt. The 1st-class citizen in Egypt is the Sunni male, Muslim male. The 2nd class is the Sunni female. The 3rd class is the Coptic male, and the 4th class is the Coptic female. And that's why none of the people that committed crimes, none of the criminals that committed crimes against Copts were prosecuted in any way because it is against Sharia law, and that's a fact, it's not an opinion, to persecute someone for a Muslim for killing, raping, torturing, or vandalizing the property of a non-Muslim or a dhimmi. So this is our legal status, and this has been happening under the Mubarak's so-called moderate regime, an ally of the West, and it's now happening now. It was only inevitable that they take their radicalism a step further and start killing Copts in the street in front of TV cameras with live ammunition and running them over with armored military vehicles they probably got from the United States of America. One of my friends was in the protest. I was supposed to go there on the 9th with him and with other people. What happened was my friend was there, Michael Mossad, with his fiancée Vivian, and they were walking. And he felt when the army started attacking the Maspero, and they saw them screaming Allahu Akbar, like they are going on an Islamic fath and an invasion, they got scared and they decided to leave. But he called his family and he told them, I'm going to die tonight, and I want to say goodbye because I'm going to get killed tonight. That's what happened to my friend. He got on the pavement and then they turned around to leave. But what happened was the armored vehicle got on the pavement to intentionally run him over. And they did run him over and almost severed his legs from his body and crushed his skull. And as Michael was lying there, breathless and dying, his fiancée kept screaming for help, asking someone to come and help him. Or what happened was the military started beating him up. They kept beating up his motionless body and beating her up and spitting on her and calling her an infidel and so much worse. At the same time, while this was happening, I was watching Egyptian television where a military official would say, would talk about the Copts, and he would say the Christian sons of dogs. We are, according to the state, the Christian sons of dogs. That's how the state defines us. And this is the current ally of the United States of America. So that's the situation, and that's what happened in Maspero. Busaina Kamel, a moderate Muslim and secular Muslim TV personality and journalist in Egypt, said that she was in Maspero, and I also know her. She was there, and as she got terrified of the attacks by the military, she went to hide inside the building of Al Hurra TV channel. What happened was, she said, the military started attacking the building while screaming Allahu Akbar, dragging Christians inside the building and beating them and torturing them. And then when she said the screams stopped and we felt we were safe to get out of the building, she said we were walking in blood of Copts, and to get out of the building alive or safe, you had to say, I'm a Muslim who believes in one Allah. That was a jihadist attack. This looks like a jihadist attack. It doesn't look like military trying to protect or stabilize a situation. That was religiously inspired. After that, also Nawara Nigm, she is a Muslim political activist and also a TV personality. She stated that she saw the military checking the hands of Copts for crosses before attacking and torturing them in the street. They kept around checking the hands of protesters because most Copts put crosses on their hands. And there are people in this room, there are Copts in this room with crosses in their hands who wouldn't have passed this test of the military. There's something that was also happening. This was the situation at Maspero, and it was even so much worse. If I had more time, I could even write a book from the amount of testimonies and my personal friends and my losses, my personal loss that day. What I would like to add that right now, currently, the Egyptian regime, military regime, is transforming into a Pakistani model. We are now approaching another Pakistan in Egypt. It is going to be inevitable unless there are serious measures taken to dismantle the current status quo. Saudi Arabia and Qatar are now funding Salafi jihadists in the Muslim Brotherhood. And the US is now currently funding the military that has evidently funded the Muslim Brotherhood in the past elections. As former Ambassador Mark Ginsburg states in his article last month, that he confirms evidence that the military is funding Salafi jihadists, the Al-Qaeda-style jihadists, and the Muslim Brotherhood, obviously from money that might have come from the USA. And also, they have brokered deal with Salafi jihadists. Now, to force the West, what the equation is, they want to force their Western so-called allies to choose either between the military dictatorship or between the Islamists. That's the equation, although that's not the reality of things. Tahrir Square was filled with moderates and was filled with secular Muslims. There are 6 million Sufis that are formally cooperating with Copts that could be a better alternative instead of this vicious equation. Right now, the equation is Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the Muslim Brotherhood, Salafi jihadists, Egyptian military, and the US on one side, and now the Copts and seculars, and moderate forces, and moderate Muslims are on the other. And I think the US have always been our ally, and this is not part of the equation that they should be. When President Bush's administration suggested that they might condition aid, our lives became immediately better in Egypt. It was like someone clicked on a button and the world looked totally and entirely and completely different. What happened was Mubarak had to leverage, because that's how America gets leverage, and by giving us more freedom. And what we did was we started co-founding secular political parties that called for, that were against Islamic imperialism and against theocracy and pro-free market and human rights. In this atmosphere, we were able to work, because that's how countries reform to better ideas and modern ideas. When secular Muslims and moderate Muslims and Copts are getting death threats, how are we going to how are we going to spread our ideas? Not everyone can tolerate getting messages like the messages and the death threats I used to get. That's not an atmosphere that is open to spread ideas of reform and modernity. So that's the current situation now.
All right.
What we would like to ask, and my conclusion of this is, America should look at the plight of Copts as a national security issue. For America, it's not only a humanitarian crisis, but these are the true allies of the United States and true believers of the ideas and the beautiful ideas that this country stands for. These are the true allies. In conclusion, 3 things must happen in order for the Coptic Christians and moderate Muslims to stand a chance of seeing their present human rights situation in Egypt improve significantly. First, the United States should cease all American aid to Egypt until there is verifiable evidence that the Egyptian government is allowing non-Muslim religious minorities in Egypt to exercise the freedom of speech and religion without fear of intimidation. Second, President Obama's administration should explain and possibly reevaluate its vetting process of foreign national employees or advisors of American embassies, particularly in Egypt, where Egyptian nationals loyal to the regime have used their embassy positions to make it hard for Copts to apply for religious asylum requests to the United States from the American embassy in Cairo, out of fear of being targeted by Egyptian state security. Third and finally, the United States must avoid legitimizing joint effort by the Muslim Brotherhood and Egypt's ruling military regime to use blasphemy law against non-Muslim minorities in Egypt, and therefore should decline to meet with the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the OIC, to discuss any agenda to apply blasphemy laws globally under the pretext of confronting